Okay, Sue.
Mm-hmm. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and very warm welcome to this webinar on behalf of the Journal of Dementia Care and Dementia Publishing. And I'm going to hand over in a minute to our presenters today, Beth, Nicola and Rosie. They're very experienced at running webinars, and so they're going to run it with gaps, breaks for questions and comments at certain points throughout, rather than waiting till the end. But do feel free to put a question in the chat if you'd like to. Also, as you know, this is being recorded, so if you want to turn your camera off, please feel free to do that. We'll definitely finish by 3 o'clock. And the recording and the slides will be available on our website, journalofdementiacare.co.uk, and on our YouTube channel, which you can access through the website. So without further ado, over to you, Beth, Nicola and Rosie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to see some of you and also to see some familiar faces. I'm going to have to say hello to Susie Webster just because I haven't seen you in absolutely ages, Susie. So hello. It's lovely to see you. But hello to everybody else as well. We will start some slides in a minute, but I think I just need to give Nikki and Rosie a chance to say hello to you all as well. I know they're staying on mute because they've got a bit of background noise.
Hi everyone. We actually don't want to jinx it, but we're quite quiet at the moment. So hi everyone, really lovely to see you all this afternoon. I'm here with my colleague Rosie, and we're here to run this webinar with Beth and Journal of Dementia Care this afternoon. So we're really excited.
Fabulous. Right, let me share my screen with you all. Hopefully this is going to work well. Do let us know if you can't see any of this. I want to make this full screen. If my computer will play ball with me, that would be great. Let me put it into slideshow. So hopefully this is what you were expecting. So a webinar on learning disability and dementia, presented by us three today. So as Sue says, we plan to have lots of different breaks throughout the next hour. If you want to say something and you're familiar with the controls of Zoom, please do just put your hand up using the reactions buttons. You can also type into the chat any questions or queries that you've got as well. I know Rosie would love to hear your voices. So we'll definitely look to get some sort of audio discussion going on as well. We don't want to just do everything in the chat, and we have got some interactive bits for you to do as well, which we're looking forward to sharing with you. So do you want to do a bit of a welcome, Rosie and Nikki, and talk a little bit about MacIntyre?
Yeah, I'll leave her first. Okay, I'll go first. So, Rosie and I both work for MacIntyre. Rosie's supported by MacIntyre as well. So this is your home as well as your job. Some of you that aren't aware of who MacIntyre are, MacIntyre is a provider that supports children, young people and adults living with a learning disability. We support people living with autism, and we do that over a wide range of ways. So we have schools, academies, we have lifelong learning, residential outreach. We have a lovely provision called No Limits, which supports teenagers in a non-traditional classroom kind of setting, so they get education in a way that makes sense to them. And we have a wonderful best practice team at MacIntyre that I sit in. So my role is that I lead on health and families, but we've had some really wonderful opportunities over the last few years. And one of those was that we ran a dementia project, which really you've been really part of as well, haven't you? Rosie's sorting my hair out for me. This is why we're together. So we're here today with our dementia hats on, but we've done a lot of work around planning, around talking about death and dying as well. But Rosie, today we're talking about dementia, aren't we? Yeah. Want to add anything?
What do you think?
Anything about you, or should we do this in a moment?
I don't mind either way.
Okay, Rosie's going to share some information in a little while, so you'll hear much more from Rosie in a minute. So thanks, Beth.
Fabulous. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Rosie. So my connection to MacIntyre is I've worked with MacIntyre since 2013 as an external consultant, supported them with their dementia project. More recently, their Dying to Talk project, and just generally now supporting the health team with lots of different aspects of issues relating to supporting people with a learning disability and different aspects of their health. My background is as a former carer to my dad, who had vascular dementia for 19 years. And my wider work as well, I support lots of different care providers, everything from sort of living care and home care through to care homes, to provide effectively better dementia care. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's basically what we're kind of looking to achieve. And I do lots of writing and other things as well. So that's all of us, and that's what we do. So why would we be talking about learning disability and dementia? The statistics are pretty stark. So we've got 1.5 million people with a learning disability in the UK. A significant proportion of those individuals have Down syndrome, and 1 in 10 people with a learning disability will develop young onset dementia. So that is dementia in somebody who is under 65 years old. And you can see there that once someone gets into their 50s, if they're living with Down syndrome, they have a 1 in 3 chance of going on to develop a type of dementia. There's a very strong sort of synergy with particularly Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome, but of course people with a learning disability can live with many other of the different types of dementia as well. And then thinking about people as they get older with a learning disability but don't have Down syndrome, again, the figures are pretty stark. So if you're over 65, 20% of those individuals will have dementia. In people without a learning disability, that figure is 1%. So we are talking about a significant proportion of people. And if you are a provider for people who are living with a learning disability, whether you're providing residential or work support or learning support, the information that we've got to share, I think, will be particularly helpful to you if you're supporting individuals who you're either concerned are developing dementia or have in fact been diagnosed as well. And then it's worth also thinking about people who are autistic. So autistic adults without a learning disability, also 10% of those individuals will develop dementia once they go past the age of 60.
Hi, Beth. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just checking whether you'll be sending out the slides.
Yes, so the slides will go to Dementia Publishing, and they will be shared by Beth Lang. You've got 2 Beths today, so they'll be shared by Beth Lang, I believe, as part of the YouTube upload that will be done for you all. And also, I should say, all the links. So if you look on the bottom of this list, we're going to share lots of links with you today. There's an awful lot to talk about. We can't fit it all into an hour. So we're going to share a lot of links, but Beth is actually going to send all of those out to you. So you don't need to worry about writing them down. You won't be able to click them off your screens. You will receive all of those after this webinar to help you understand more about different aspects of what we've talked about.
Thank you.
Nikki and Rosie, do you want to go through what we're going to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. So we are going to be listening to Rosie. Rosie's coming up next to talk about her diagnosis, her own diagnosis of dementia. So, and then we move on to talk about signs, symptoms and assessments for dementia when a person is living with a learning disability. So we've got a couple of really great tools that we use at MacIntyre that we wanted to share with you as well. Life after diagnosis and how we can help a person live with a learning disability and dementia. And we really are sharing lots of links this afternoon to some resources that we are really, massive advocates of at MacIntyre. But all of these will be sent to you after the webinar. So don't worry if you're hearing about things. There's a promise that you'll get sent everything just relax and enjoy the next sort of 50 minutes or so.
Over to Rosie.
All right. I've been waiting for this. Okay. Let's hope your ears are open. My name is Rosie, and I'm part of the Health, Dementia and Wellbeing Project, MacIntyre, alongside Meg, Rachel and Nikki, who's here today. We have someone else that's now joined the team, Megan, short for Meg, MacIntyre's the animal nurse. This year, I was diagnosed with dementia. This was confirmed by my GP. In my mind, I've not had it until now, and not had it before. I am still trying to get used to it. It is new to me. I can still live well, but leading a normal life. Even though I have Down syndrome, it doesn't affect it to who I am. Even with me having dementia, it does not affect who I am. So I'm here today talking to you. Using different ways of releasing your emotions. Maybe using a mix of tapes or CDs to relax to. By doing relaxing techniques, it helps a person to unwind. It's important to stay positive and to focus on the things you still do. You could also consider installing a specialist dementia clock if someone is struggling to orientate themselves day and night time. I find that really helpful. For example, maybe Alexa. It is how you deal with it when you get a diagnosis and prepare a person for the outcome. By talking about it really does help so you can feel relaxed. It is okay to feel emotional at times. It has made me more determined to carry on working within this project and with the team. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. I hope you can share my journey, can accept in my life and continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Oh, thank you, Rosie. That's a really big thing to share, so I'm not surprised you're feeling emotional. I haven't actually seen you since your diagnosis because I'm very busy with my young family, and Nikki and I don't get together very much in person. We spend our life on Zoom. But I think that's just such a valuable insight, and we really wanted to start by hearing from you, because everything that we want to talk about is really centered around how we support people well. And we support people well when we understand the person and we hear from the person. That's really important.
I think that's the I always find it easier to get somebody else on the side, because then this is something that I strongly feel in terms of getting the news out there.
I think that's a really important message as well. I made a few notes while you were talking, and you said, I can still live well. It doesn't affect who I am. And I think you're quite passionate about that, aren't you? Yeah. And I love your relaxation techniques. I need some of those in my life, I think. Has anybody got any questions for Rosie at this point? Or has Rosie got anything else you'd like to say before we go on to the next slide? Let me just stop the share for a second.
Correct. So I think, got any ideas?
I think you've said a lot there. I think throughout the next part of the workshop, there may be questions that come your way.
You never know.
Yeah. So sit tight and wait for some questions to come.
Okay, fabulous. Right, let's move on to the next slide then. So this is one over to all of you guys, actually. So this is your first chance to use the chat. I see somebody already has. So Nat says, thank you, Rosie, with a lovely heart. So well done, Rosie. You've got a fan in Nat. Thank you, Nat. So a question to you guys, please. So please find your chat box. It should be hopefully somewhere along the bottom of your screen. Are you supporting a person with a learning disability and dementia? So you can either type a 1, a 2, or a 3. So if you're a 1, you're a yes, I am. If you're a 2, you're a no, I'm not. If you're a 3, and you might be thinking, how on earth can I be a 3? It might be that you're supporting somebody who you think might be developing dementia, but you're not sure. So that's what would make you a 3. So let's see what we've got. So Gillian, Nicola, you're both saying you're 1s, you're supporting someone. Isabella's saying no, she's a 2. Stuart's a 1, Elizabeth's a 1, Nat's a 1, Edith's a 2. Jill's a 2, Emily's a 2, Susie's a 2, but Susie did support her mum, as I know, because that's how I know Susie. Jess is a 2 as well. Rebecca's a 2. Liz is a 1. Hannah's a 1. Steve's a 2. Owen's a 1. Kim's a 2. So we've got real mixtures of 2s and 3s. And then interestingly, right at the end of all of this, so many names to read out, Emily is saying she's a 3. You're not sure. And is that because you're thinking that someone you support might be developing dementia, Emily? Is that what you're thinking?
So I work in care homes and I do creative activities. I'm project manager at Magic Me, and we often don't have the sort of medical history of the people that we work with. So it is possible that I will be working with people who have a learning disability and dementia, but I wouldn't necessarily know that for a fact.
Necessarily know that. And that's really interesting. You work for Magic Me, because I follow what you guys do. So that's really cool to actually meet you on here. So fabulous. Good to meet you. So we've got quite a few ones, haven't we? Quite a few of you are saying, do you know what? Yes, I am supporting a person with a learning disability. So for you guys, I think the majority of what we're going to talk about today is what great support looks like and what some of the tools are that go into great support. And we're going to get onto that shortly. For those of you that are a 2, you're a no. I'm guessing some of you may encounter someone with a learning disability in the future who you are then concerned about developing dementia. So the next little bit is really helpful for you, because we're going to just talk a little bit briefly. Obviously, Rose has mentioned she's been diagnosed, but actually, what would the signs and symptoms for people look like if they were living with a learning disability and developing dementia? So that's what we're going to look at first, and then the big chunk around what good support looks like. And Jan, you say I've supported a person with a learning disability and dementia previously. So, and possibly you may again in the future if work takes you in that direction. Thank you for sharing, Jan. So let's have a look then. Nikki, do you want to talk about a few signs and symptoms?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. So, like many of you on the call today, before I'm doing the job I do now at MacIntyre, I was a support worker for many years, working with a lot of people living with Down syndrome, and just starting to notice subtle changes within that person, not jumping to a conclusion that it was dementia, but go with my gut, thinking this doesn't feel quite right. And yeah, hence, I've gone on to do quite a lot of work around dementia. And some of the things we've created our ebooks, which we are going to signpost you to later on this afternoon. But this particular one has some really good information around signs and symptoms of dementia. And some of the common signs and symptoms could include, and we're absolutely not going to touch upon them all, but we just wanted to share a few. So difficulty performing familiar tasks. So things that you're really used to doing become a bit complicated. So as simple as doing something personal at home, with your, running a bath, making a cup of tea, and navigating yourself to work, those kind of things. They just start to feel a little bit different. And as a support worker or someone maybe that you're working closely with, it's just being aware of when you're seeing those signs, just thinking how, could it just be that person's tired, or is it more frequent than that? And we are going to go on to talk about how we record that and document that. Recognition, so not recognizing a familiar face, and that can be quite shocking to be on the receiving end of, because you and I, we've worked together haven't we, Rosie, for a long time.
How many years?
We've known each other about 18 years, but we've worked together closely on the dementia project for about 8 years. Yeah. You still recognise me, don't you? Oh, yeah. Sometimes we need reminding of maybe who someone is, and we do our best then to make sure we don't ever say, you should remember who I am. It's very much, reintroducing who I am is really good practice, and having maybe a name badge on, so you're not making that person feel as comfortable as they possibly can. You might start seeing problems with communication. So
Oh, I think possibly Nikki and Rosie have just frozen. I don't know if that's the same for anybody else. Oh, there you are. You're back again. Brilliant.
Oh, sorry. Did we break up?
Froze. Yeah, you froze. My side anyway.
Okay. Yeah, it does say our internet connection is unstable, so fingers crossed. compulsion. The person may feel a need to constantly walk around even when this is unsafe to do so. And we always say, you know, never limit a person's life, but it's just making sure that's done in a safe way. And if a person's wanting to move around more, it's how we support them in a safe way to do that. Shall I just do a couple more, Beth?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You're right from poor judgment. The person may walk out onto a busy road or touch something on the cooker that they would have previously known was too hot. So again, it's not taking away tasks. Sometimes we overcompensate with being a support worker or thinking, oh, it's safer not to allow that person to do that. But it's supporting you, Rosie, isn't it? For thinking about you. If you ever struggle in the kitchen, it's how we can help you change maybe how you've done things in the past. Problems tracking, keeping a track of things, so missing appointments, being overwhelmed with things going into your diary. So Rosie and I work really closely together, and things like today, I can't just say to you, we're going to be here in Milton Keynes today at 2 o'clock. That isn't okay, and that's not going to help Rosie in any way. So my role is to really think about how I'm delivering that invitation. So Rosie you're in control and know what's going on. And one way we do that works for you at the moment is our accessible invites. So there's a picture and words as well. So that tends to help Rosie and I stay connected with our work diaries. And Meg, yeah. A couple more, but you will get this book in your links. Visual perception, so hesitation about walking into an environment that has been normal for that person for a long time. So we are going to touch upon dementia enabling environments this afternoon, but just thinking about the environment that a person lives in and how easy it is to navigate without dementia, but thinking about having that on top and how we can support a person's environment to become more familiar, safe and comfortable to be in. Yeah, I think that's probably enough to share. And of course, we might start to see memory loss too, but it's important to stress that dementia isn't just about memory loss. However, that these can be signs and symptoms of other conditions too. So a thorough diagnostic process is required for anyone suspected of developing dementia.
Thank you very much, Nikki and Rosie. So yeah, there are absolutely lots and lots of different signs and symptoms. They are all in this free to download ebook. I know that Beth Lang has just put the link in the chat, and you will be getting all of those links afterwards as well. So there's lots of signs and symptoms to look out for, but as Nikki says, they can also be signs and symptoms of other conditions as well. Now, what about if you're supporting a person with a profound or multiple learning disability? So the changes may be more subtle, as you can see on the screen. So you might see, for example, a lack of eye contact if that was previously there. The person might lose interest in their food. They might show additional signs of distress that you perhaps haven't seen before. They may be fearful of known situations, things that have previously been really familiar to them. It's obviously a lot more difficult to diagnose dementia in a person who has profound or multiple learning disability, and there is a lot of sort of ongoing interest in how this can be done well, and it was the subject of a meeting that we ran earlier this year within MacIntyre as well. So these signs and symptoms and supporting a person with profound or multiple learning disability are also in that ebook that we've just signposted you to. Okay, Sandra's going to wait until it goes on YouTube because you can't hear anything. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so let's have a little look at diagnostic overshadowing and advocating for the person. Nikki and Rosie, do you want to talk us through this?
Us again. Okay, so one of the you might be familiar with the word diagnostic overshadowing, and it's when the learning disability is seen before anything else. So we're going to GP appointments, we're going to support a person to get a diagnosis, and there's that barrier sometimes that comes up, and it's just part of who that person is. And that fills me sometimes with frustration, because I just think, no, I've known this person for so many years, be it a support worker, a family member, of a friend, and this isn't just their learning disability. This is something deeper than that. So it's really advocating on behalf of that person to eventually get a diagnosis, be it of dementia, because that's what we're talking about this afternoon. And there's ways that you can do that. When I was a support worker, I got told a lot when I was supporting people at their GP appointments, come back when you've got something really substantial to show the doctor that things have changed. And we didn't really have anything in place, and we had really good communication books, but nothing that we could go to the doctors and say, this has changed and this is our evidence. And part of our dementia project, one of our aims was to support a person living with a learning disability to receive a diagnosis in a timely way. So that timely diagnosis. And one of the ways we did that was by using a resource called the health calendar, which I know I don't want to jump too far ahead, Beth, but we'll go on to show that in a minute. But yeah, so we just really wanted to talk, to get that on everyone's radar, that if they're facing that, no, it's just that person's learning disability, to really advocate on behalf and say, no, I don't know if you want to add anything else there.
Yeah, and I think just if you're working within a social care environment, it really, providers do need to upskill staff, I think, sometimes to do that. It's not always easy to say to doctors or medical professionals, do you know what, actually we do think there's something wrong. This is not just the person's behaviour. And I know MacIntyre, we've done a lot of work to sort of support staff to be able to have those conversations and feel empowered to do that. So it's just quite important, if you're working within an organisation and you're facing those kind of diagnostic overshadowing barriers, that you really sort of support your team to be able to advocate, because it's not always easy. It doesn't necessarily come easy to everybody. So we're going to have a look at one of the toolkits that MacIntyre particularly use. And many of you, if you work in a social care service, may be using these as well. So first and foremost, we talk about understanding what the person's usual baseline is. Now, a baseline health assessment, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, we look to do this when someone's a relatively young adult, don't we? Is it once someone hits sort of 30-ish?
Oh, even younger, Beth, having a good baseline of a person's health as soon as we start supporting them into sort of young adulthood helps us. Yeah, absolutely.
So we would be looking to gather a baseline as soon as we can. Obviously, if someone moves to your services a lot later than that, you could start your baselines then, if that's your first opportunity, if the person hasn't come with any of that information. So what kind of things do we cover in a baseline health assessment? Pretty much everything that you can see in the screen. And the key question is what is normal for me? So what is normal for the person with a learning disability? And we look at lots of different aspects. We look at everything from pain and distress, weight, sleep, behaviour, eating and drinking, epilepsy. And what's not on the screen is also that a baseline health assessment would also cover things like urine, feces, and also menstruation for females. So it does cover a lot. It is quite a long document, 10 pages, but really important. And as you can see on the screen there, never to be archived. We keep that for that comparison. It's that process of starting to show actually how have things changed for the person, what is concerning us, what's different now, and when were these changes noticed, because that's really important to understand that. If I move on now to the health calendar, which Nikki's kind of already mentioned. Nikki, do you want to just talk to us a little bit about how valuable this is in terms of gathering that crucial evidential information when we are concerned about someone?
Yeah, absolutely. So at MacIntyre, some of you have been on our webinars and workshops before. You might think we do speak about this so passionately because we've seen it in action. I see it in action all the time, but where it's actually supported a person to receive a diagnosis in a much earlier way than without it.
Oh, I think you guys have just frozen again. Can you hear us? Nikki, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, you're back. Yes.
Oh, I've gone
again. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, everyone. We'll carry on. And yeah, so, is normal person. So people are having a good week, a good month. It's just a straight recording of green. But when things change, it jumps up and it highlights quickly that something isn't normal. There's an actions that you have to take then to make sure you're evidencing that. And that's where what I spoke about earlier. This is what you would take to a GP saying, look at this spike around someone's sleep. This isn't normal for them. Their baseline is the evidence there. And then you hope that really taken on board. It's not a resource that we own, it's an NHS document, and it's under really wonderful construction at the moment to really modernise aspects of it, not to take away the need of it, but I'm working closely with the Innovation Agency on making those changes alongside another charity. So that's great. But we also, keeping accurate and written health records will help get a timely diagnosis, as there will be evidence of change. And the healthcare calendar is a great tool to identify changes. Records can also help joined up thinking. And if you are spending a lot of time with the person, you may not notice those small and subtle changes. This helps you do that. And it's a non-biased recording that can help build up a consistent picture of what's happening in a person's day-to-day life around their health.
Yeah, so it's going to help you spot all kinds of things, not just dementia, but it certainly helps when you're looking for whether you're trying to gather evidence that you are concerned about the person. So that kind of brings us to the end of the diagnosis section of this. And I think the majority of you have probably joined for that post-diagnostic information. Fabulous. Thank you, Rosie. You've got some of the books there. So these are 3 booklets that we would like to signpost you to that can help you if you are looking to support a person to access diagnosis. So Getting a Timely Diagnosis is an ebook, Access to Healthcare and Who Else Can Help. And they really look at actually, how do you get things like reasonable adjustments? How do you do health recording? What other aspects of support are available? And then would really signpost you guys as well to MenCap. That's a fabulous, easy read on reasonable adjustments. If you're accessing health appointments, reasonable adjustments can make a real difference to how the person's able to access that appointment and how successful it might be. Fabulous. Thank you very much, Rosie. Rosie's got the actual printed versions. Fabulous. Right, okay, let's just check the chat. What have we got? Brilliant. So Beth Lang has put into the chat for you guys there those links that we've got on the screen currently. So can everybody else take to the chat again now? So you're now supporting someone who's diagnosed. So we move the story on a little bit now. Can a person remain in a learning disability service when they have dementia? So can you take to the chat? We are looking for a 1, yes, they can, and no, they can't, or a 3, I'm just not sure. So lots and lots of 1s. So Isabella's not sure, a 3. Everyone else is so far a 1, lots and lots and lots of 1s. Fabulous. So absolutely, all of you are saying 1, a person can most definitely remain in learning disability service when they have dementia. But often the difficulty can be that sometimes the provider, the professionals actually think, do you know what, they think a long way ahead. They think, actually, do you know what, we don't think we're going to be able to support this person because we're kind of going from diagnosis to fast forward to more kind of end of life, and how are we going to support that? Rather than looking at the here and now, what can we put in place that's going to make things easier for the person? So Rosie still lives in her home, don't you, Rosie? And that's really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You just said, and Beth, just as you were speaking then, I don't know if the mic picked up, right, when you said, can people remain with a learning disability in their home, you went, definitely.
Yeah.
And I really definitely, and absolutely taking into consideration what Jan's put in the chat, as long as the home is safe and still support you, and there's been many changes that have done that in your bungalow, isn't there, as well? So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, so obviously we do sometimes need to make those changes. Sorry, Rosie, what did you want to say?
I just wanted to point out, because obviously I have since been living across the road before I got back to my own place. When it came down to it, it was a case of I must have been in there for 4 days at least. I was recuperating. So apparently, may not in it because it's on me at the moment, but I didn't even get the full format. But basically, I got one of those things with straps on, which I mean, it's really helped.
So you've recently had a bit of an accident with your leg. So you've gone from so you live independently, don't you, in your bungalow, and you have for many years, but you went to stay somewhere else to recuperate, like you said. And
Yeah, it was in the first block.
Are you back home?
Yes.
Yeah, back home.
And I'm sure home is where you want to be, isn't it, Rosie?
Yes. Well, obviously, when I was over there, it meant I could recuperate even more. Maybe it's a stronger person.
So absolutely, those of you that have said if it's still meeting the person's needs, and that's really, really important. I know there are some providers who are relatively new to supporting people with dementia when they have a learning disability. They've perhaps supported a younger cohort of people. Those people are now aging and they're starting to develop dementia. And that's where sometimes this concern sets in. And that's why we put that question in. Actually, can we carry on supporting this person? Is that going to work? And what we would say is absolutely. You may need to make some modifications. You're certainly going to need to upskill your staff around dementia as well. That was pretty much where MacIntyre were when they started kind of working with me, and we have done so much since to kind of really refine how we support staff and the knowledge and advice we give staff around how to involve the person and everyone in their home environment to really support the individual with dementia to the very best of their ability. And what we're going to show you in the next little while now is some of the things that you can do, what can really, really help the person. So let's have a look at this. What kind of things are really important? We know it's important for people to remain at home because 85% of people would choose to live at home for as long as possible if they were diagnosed with dementia. And that is a statistic from the Alzheimer's Society Fixed Home Care report of 2016. So most people want to remain at home, and that doesn't change when people have a learning disability. Why would it? So let's have a little quiz with you guys. Let's do something again quite interactive. So if I stop the share, hopefully our lovely colleagues in the office, there you go. Hopefully you've got a little quiz in front of you. This is just to get some ideas. Once someone's been diagnosed, what does their support need to look like? What do we need to do or not do? So have a little go at that. There are no right or wrong answers. Just choose whatever you think feels right for you. And then we'll come back together for a bit of a look at the answers. I think almost everybody has participated. I think possibly colleagues in the office won't be. So we can possibly end the poll, I think, Beth, and have a look at the results. Fabulous. So question number 1. The person will immediately need us to do more for them now they're diagnosed with dementia. So one person said yes, but the overwhelming majority are saying no. Absolutely. You don't go from being a different person on a Wednesday when you've been diagnosed on a Tuesday. You are still the same person that you were on the Tuesday or the Monday. Yes, we need to start some forward planning. We need to start thinking about what the future might look like and getting in place support mechanisms for the person. But it's definitely not about literally overnight blanket change, because that's not going to do anybody any good at all. Question number 2, Nikki, do you want to take this one?
Just unmuting, sorry everyone. Yeah, so the person won't be able to make decisions that now they're diagnosed with dementia. Yeah, same as above. So most of you are saying, yeah, of course, that's not true. Rosie, you still make decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it, for you to be in control of that. Oh, sorry, someone has put, I don't know as well, I didn't see that bit, but yeah, okay.
Lovely, thank you, Nikki. So yeah, obviously decision making all comes down to a person's mental capacity, and obviously doing an appropriate assessment and moving from there. But certainly things don't suddenly change just because somebody's been diagnosed with dementia. Question number 3, the person won't be able to go to work or go to their day service now they're diagnosed with dementia. So absolutely, we would say that, of course, people can still go to work, they can go to their day service, and it's about everybody working together in this equation. So if you're the residential service, if you're supporting someone in their home life, actually, you know, communicating and sharing and working with the other people that are involved in that person's life is really, really helpful in terms of obviously being able to all work from the same page, as it were, and share information as necessary. Nikki, do you want to do question number 4?
Yes, that one that Rosie says, the person will need us to make changes to their environment now they're diagnosed with dementia. So 54% of people said yes, 29% said no, and 17% said I don't know. And I guess there's probably a mix there, isn't there? Because just because a person's diagnosed with dementia doesn't mean we go in with rockets blazing to adapt the environment and we are making those assumptions this is going to work. This is a sort of, you know, step by step, moment by moment of, you know, it might be that you live with dementia for many, many months and nothing's needed to change in that environment. But then those subtle changes that we spoke about, on this, you know, it could be now we need to adapt or talk through that. And Rosie, you spoke, didn't you, about your Alexa and your dementia clock. You've not always had those since you've lived with dementia, but they've been added and they are helping you be able to still be independent. So I'm guessing that's why we're seeing that on this result there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we would always say, and we will, I'm sure, paraphrase our little bit on environment shortly, is you don't just do what the person with dementia needs. If they're living in a shared household, we've got to think about what the whole household needs. And we've got to think about how we're going to work with peers and friends and bring everyone along on that journey. Not the right word, I know, but take everybody on that sort of experience together where we work together to support the person. That's really, really important. Question 5, the person should be encouraged to do lifestyle work now they're diagnosed with dementia. Majority of you are saying 92% yes. But the only thing I would add to that is ideally you're doing it already. We always say start life story work early, start early, do lots. Our lives are hopefully long and full, and it's great to capture at any point in time. So if you're supporting younger people, nothing wrong in supporting them to start collating their memories, their favorite experiences, and all the people in their life that are important to them, and really bringing all of that together along with their music choices and their sports teams and whatever else they might be. It might be really important to them. And then question number 6, Nikki.
Okay, we'll take this last one. So every person we support with a learning disability and dementia will need the same approach from us, and everybody's in agreement that that isn't correct, and that's absolutely. Sometimes I think, from my experience, you hear certain stuff, staff teams with confidence, which is great, thinking this works for this person with dementia, that's going to work for this person, and it's not always that way at all. So it's really important that we see each person with a person living with dementia is one person living with dementia. So yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely. And I always say I do a lot of dementia training. I trained here too. I do a lot of training with the staff that I work with, and I always say I can give you a toolkit. Think of it like DIY. You can pick bits out of your toolbox to try and fix things in your house. If it's anything like me, it might be moderately unsuccessful. What I can't give you is a textbook. There is no textbook that is going to tell you how to support every single person with dementia. We're giving you tools and ideas. So let's crack on and give you some of those now. Do pop any questions you've got into the chat for us as well as we go along through this section. Oh yes, we were going to do a Jamboard. I think we will actually come back to the Jamboard, because I think what we're going to do now is we will actually get you guys just to give you some of the information that we really want to share, because I'm mindful that time is marching on. So there's Rosie. Rosie, there's your quote. Doing well.
So that's good. Okay. It's not about what I can't do, so what I can do.
Absolutely. And that's what we focus on, isn't it? What you can do. So let's have a look at ways in which we can support a person well. So everyone has something to say. We start with a person-centered approach at all times for everyone we support. We're supporting the person to be heard. We're keeping them at the centre of their care. We're recognising the potential that everyone has. We're slowing down. We're celebrating those small steps, and we're being aware of unmet needs. And MacIntyre used lots of tools to do this. Things like important 2, important 4, good days, bad days, one-page profiles, 4+1. Lots of ways to keep the person at the centre of their care and capture what they think. Anything you want to add to that, Nikki and Rosie? No, I think not. Hopefully they can hear me. Okay, on to communication tips. Of course, communication is going to be absolutely fundamental to everything we're going to do to support the person. Lots of important stuff here. I think I really like number 10, be present, or number 9, as it is on the right hand side. Be present with the person and really support them. And I have a horrible feeling my co-presenters have just disappeared. Oh no, they're back again. Good. Is there anything else you want to pull out of this one, Nikki and Rosie? Anything that's really important to you? Or you're on mute.
We didn't hear that, but one thing I was going to add, if you had to, is working together. Is, you know, really, you know, we spoke about, you know, everyone's an individual and everyone with dementia, but when you come together and talk things through, it really helps. But yeah, around getting that right support for the person. Yeah, communication does matter.
I think it's really important, and we've talked about this already, how we bring everyone along with this. So when you've got a friend who's got a learning disability and they're diagnosed with dementia and you have a learning disability, how do you understand what's happening to your friend? How do you support your friend? And if you're living in a shared house, what does that look like? So these are 2 resources that we're really, really passionate about. So Books Beyond Words are fantastic. They provide loads and loads of publications, but obviously for today we've picked out the one that specifically relates to dementia. So that's a fantastic resource. As the title suggests, it has no words. You create the story with the person you're supporting, or if you're doing it with a group of housemates, for example, they create the story and they tell the story. They name the characters, and it just is a very, very empowering experience. And then you have MacIntyre's own This Is Vince document, and it talks about Vince as a person and the fact that Vince has dementia and how Vince's dementia affects him. Anything you want to add to that, Nikki? I know you're hugely passionate about Books Beyond Words.
I am. Beyond Words are wonderful. It just empowers everyone to be in control of what they see and not make assumptions of what we think is happening. And the Vince, This Is Vince was created by a group of people with a learning disability, some living with dementia, and it was just very simple steps, but it was very empowering for them to recognise change in their friend being Vince, sort of that pretend character. So yeah.
Really important to use resources like this that people with a learning disability can understand and participate in, to get everyone sort of supporting the person in a holistic way and being able to understand why things are changing for their friend. So what about choice, control, independence and safety? So we've already said we're not going to suddenly start doing everything for everybody. So what does being in control of your life look like? It's opportunities to participate in your life as fully as you can. It's about us valuing the time we spend supporting people to make those decisions as much as the time spent doing tasks together. So like Nikki said, things like accessible invitations for something like this, really, really important for Rosie to be able to join us and participate. What else would we suggest you do? Champion the person, explain and reassure. You might need to do that many, many times. You're looking to create that just right side-by-side support. You're with the person to support them when they need you, but not to step in and do for them what they can do for themselves, perhaps with a bit of extra help. We're looking to respond in a timely way to what the person needs and wants. Routine, really important for most people. For a few people, routine might go completely out the window. It might need to change. Again, it's about those person-centered ways of working, keeping the person at the center of their support, and put yourself in their shoes. What if this was me? What would I want? Where would I want to be? And what would I want to be involved with? Anything you want to add on that, Nikki?
No, I don't think so.
Just trying to think.
Oh, okay.
Going back to when you mentioned, I don't know what it was, because when I was so I've gone from being everywhere, basically. But moving on from that, There was a time when I was in flat 52 and it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I found it really useful to have because I having to readjust, having to, at the time, I had that plaster cast on me, on my leg. And since then, I've now got this one. And it's those ones.
You're breaking up quite a lot, Nikki and Rosie. I'm getting quite a broken sort of link from you guys. Sorry.
Carry on then. Apologies, it's just the internet here. I think it's just a bit
Dodgy. Okay, let me crack through a couple more and then we'll come back to you guys to see. I know Rosie would probably want to say something about Alexa. So we've got Alexa on this screen. I know Alexa really helps you, doesn't it, Rosie?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking to create an environment that's enabling and responsive to the person's needs so that we can continue to support their independence so they can orientate themselves, live as they wish to. There is loads of information out there on dementia environments. So you've got our ebook there on the bottom, which Beth's also put into the chat. But the go-to experts on this are Stirling University, that's their link as well. Some of the things you might think about in a person's environment would be introducing some signage, making sure that we've got colour contrast, that everything's not blending into one. Sometimes it can be as simple as just painting around the doorway or the light switch so that actually it's clear what is there. So not everything has to be expensive. Not everything has to be purchased. You can make your own DIY signage. You can use a coat of paint, as I say, around doors and light switches. Don't forget outside spaces. It's really important that we can get outside and enjoy that for our well-being as well. And then, of course, there are lots of technology options for people. So Rose has spoken about her dementia clock and her Alexa. You can also get sensors for lights at night and things like that. Lots of things that can help the person. So I would recommend that you think about what the person's environment is like for them and how it's working for them. Unfortunately, my Alexa is now chirped up in the room because it's heard me mention its name. Okay, so moving on to life story work. So we said that we wouldn't necessarily start life story work because someone has dementia, and ideally we'd actually do it beforehand if at all possible. But certainly starting at any point in someone's life can be really, really valuable, regardless of whether they have dementia or not. Some fabulous resources to signpost you to. Barry's book I just absolutely love. So Barry was a gentleman who really loved the TV program This Is Your Life. You can buy blank red This Is Your Life books, and his family and his staff team filled it full of not just photographs that were captioned, but also a letter that he'd handwritten. Staff had never seen his handwriting before because he wasn't able to write anymore since he'd developed dementia. So that's just a fabulous example of a beautiful resource. And one of the things I love most about it is Barry would go and pick it up off his chest of drawers and sit and read it independently himself, flick through it. It wasn't something that staff necessarily just pulled out to support him with, which I just love. We've got a memory box, which was a fabulous memory box and then became a recording when the gentleman was nearing the end of his life. I think staff recorded sort of anecdotes from his football programs and things like that. And then Barry's table, many years ago, another Barry, Nikki and I went to see a service. He said, goodness, we can't possibly do life story work. We're supporting a gentleman with dementia. He destroys everything with his hands. And we kind of challenged him. We said, you're going to have to do something. We'll come back. And we came back to a laminated table. They had put everything that was important to him, including, as you can see, his football team and Cliff Richard, into his table. He loved his table. It went with him when he moved service. And it was just a fabulous example of what creative, practical life story work can be all about. And you can read about how that was done with one of those links as well that you will get afterwards. Anything you want to add on life story work, Nikki and Rosie?
Well, as it happens, there's nothing about it because there's a book called Positive Tales. You may not have heard of it, but apparently everyone has a story to tell. So when it came down to it, there were so many people recording their life stories in this fabulous book by each and every one of them. It started off at the Living Archive project that we were doing, and so I was one of them that I shared everyone's story is different, and so likewise, there's a lady called Sue Westdale, she did on the female side, and then there's somebody else that did the men's side, and so so we doing it that way. We were able to, I for one, I'm always one for if it comes to it, I can share my story with everybody.
Somebody's just said, Liz has said she loves your quote, Rosie. Everybody has a story to tell.
Yes.
I think that's a fabulous quote as well. I agree with you, Liz.
It's a great way of sharing it with everybody.
It is indeed. It's fabulous. And another way that stories are shared, and they're shared by people who are living with dementia, is through dementia diaries. So this slide is all about social interaction and mental stimulation, supporting the person with lots of different resources that are available now. There's just a few examples there on the right-hand side of your screen. But we're also very passionate advocates at MacIntyre of peer support. Rosie and Nikki have done some work with the Deep Network, Dementia Voices. And of course, by being socially interactive, by having mental stimulation, you are also supporting your well-being. And there we're signposting to our 5 Ways to Wellbeing ebook, and how that structure alone of be active, take notice, connect, keep learning and give can really help to support the person to have a very good and positive quality of life. A little bit around healthy diet and lifestyle, because we're very nearly out of time. Really important, obviously, to consider a person's dietary choices. You may find that as a person's dementia progresses, they may struggle to find the right words for food. Their taste buds may change. We're trying to make food interesting and varied, and we're supporting the person to be involved in creating that food as much as they possibly can be. Know a favourite food, but also favourite food might have changed now. So it's important that we're always aware of that and continue to offer the person choice and remind the person to drink and offer a variety of different drinks. Keep exercising, ideally outside, incorporate music, join groups, do anything like that that makes exercise more interesting and more fun. And if the person's reluctant to take exercise, just be innovative, you know, even just to stroll around the garden or somewhere in the local neighbourhood to take notice of the wildlife and enjoy currently our lovely weather. Obviously, cutting down smoking and alcohol is recommended by the NHS, and good sleep habits can be really helpful as well. But of course, sleep can also become very disrupted when a person's living with dementia. So there we're signposting to one of our changed behaviour booklets around wakefulness and disturbed sleep, just so that you've got some ideas there if you're supporting someone who is struggling with that. Anything you want to add, Nikki?
No, Beth, no.
Okay, fabulous. So because we're nearly out of time, more organisations that we would highly recommend that you access for more information. Dementia UK, MacIntyre until recently had an Admiral Nurse. Admiral Nurses are a fantastic resource for supporting anyone who's living with dementia, including people with a learning disability. Alzheimer's Society, of course, is well a great source of information. And there are loads more resources on the MacIntyre website that can help you as well. One final question. One final question to take to the chat. How do you, if I can see the question, oops, putting myself on mute is not going to help anything. So how do you share learning within your organisation to support and upskill all staff around dementia care? So do you do that? You're a yes if you're a 1, you're a no if you're a 2, and you're a 3 if you're not sure. So we've got lots of 1s. People are saying that they are all a 1, which is fantastic. The reason we're asking that is, thank you, Stuart, great session, thank you. The reason we're asking that is because we want to signpost you to the way that we do that, which is predominantly through the MacIntyre Dementia Special Interest Group. So this has been running since 2011. Thank you, Jan. This has been running since 2011, and it's just a great way of us to share information. Originally, it was just an internal group for MacIntyre staff, but it is now accessible to everybody. So if you are, thank you, Susie. So thank you all so much for coming today. Do join us in October if you would like to. You can find out more. We haven't decided on our topic yet, have we, Nikki? But it will be a fabulous 3-hour session. And just thank you all so much for coming. We haven't got time for any Jamboard, but we are happy to stay on and do any questions if anybody has any that they want to ask. So Gillian's saying, it'd be great if we think a care home provider could benefit from your presentation. Is there a link we can send out to access? So this presentation will go on YouTube. Beth, Dementia Publishing will put this onto YouTube. It will be available for everyone. But you are also most welcome to contact either Nikki or myself or both of us for more help and support around anything that we've talked about today. We've tried to pack in too much, ladies, and we've run out of time.
Oh, Lord.
There is so much we could talk about. We're really passionate about this subject. So
Thank you all.
Can I just mention something?
you can.
Apparently, there is a dementia nurse, Astrid. I don't know if you've heard of her, but apparently she's really good. And I've actually kept her on because she's an elderly nurse, to which she knows anything in terms of medical, whether it could be related to what you've been talking about, to giving advice, that kind of thing. She's really a really good ambassador to have.
It's fabulous to be able to have access to another nurse, isn't it? I've heard a lot about your nurses, Rosie. I haven't met them.
I know Astrid is one of them, and she's been amazing. Where she's, in fact, it was only this afternoon that it was only this morning when she came round. Obviously, with this thing I've got on at the moment, once it came off, you need to put it back in, that kind of thing. She's been she's one of these people that will get into it. And it's really good to see that, because then she's always up for asking questions in relation to the actual thing itself, to other alternative ways of adjusting.
Brilliant. And that's so important, isn't it, Rosie? Because you need to know those different ways to adjust so that you can carry on being independent and working with us in the health team and doing everything that you do. Thank you. I think I need to hand back to Sue and just say thank you very much to you all.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Beth, Rosie and Nicola. It's been wonderful. And thank you, everybody who's contributed. All the, as you know, it'll be on our website, the recording and all the resources and the slides. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.